Oh, this has worked really brilliantly, and we are live. There's
Fantastic.
no drama whatsoever involved in this. I love it. Okay, so if we just give it, I don't know, maybe we give it 1 minute, let's 30 seconds for people who are just joining us to be able to log on. That would be good. Right. Okay. Right, okay. So it looks like it's live everywhere. We are expecting it to go live now. So welcome to this chat. Liz, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, Tutu. Really good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. So before I start, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to me today about the work, the good work that you're doing. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and I am grateful for it.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So we potentially have people joining us now. Welcome everybody. My name is Tutu Popoola, and I am the managing director and lead consultant at Sleek HR Limited. Today I have with me the wonderful Liz Mayers, who's going to be talking to us about DEI accreditation, and she'll also be taking questions. So if you have any questions as you've joined us, please pop it in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that and try and answer as many of your questions as possible. So just a bit of an introduction to Liz. Liz is the co-founder of EDI Accreditation, the firm providing accreditation for organizations large and small committed to improving equality, diversity, and inclusion for their people. Lisa spent many years helping organizations create diverse and inclusive leadership hiring strategies, and she's now part of a team designed to improve the world of work for everyone and building an environment where they can flourish as their authentic self, and also ensure that that process is well documented. So I present to you Liz.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome. Let's start from from the beginning. What is the? Can you explain to me how accreditation works? How does
Yeah,
it? What benefit does it bring to an organization?
yeah, definitely. I suppose it's probably worth talking a little bit about myself and my co-founders.
Okay.
So we are, by nature, very logical people. We're very different, but the one common thread that we do have is that we're all quite logical, and we like basing decisions on facts, not just a hunch.
Mm-hmm.
Although those are often right as well. But we know you can't fix what you can't measure. And when we several years ago were looking for a comprehensive, impartial, intersectional EDI measurement, we couldn't find one. And actually recognise that having a detailed picture of all the facets of EDI performance is a baseline measurement. And once you've got that in place, it's far easier to identify where improvements can and should be made. I think often EDI work is triggered by an issue or a gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's been an increase in harassment and bullying incidents, or HR can see a very male-dominated leadership team or a lack of representation somewhere in the business, and they know they need to do something, but actually without being able to understand the root cause and diagnose why these things are happening, it's really hard to address it effectively. So without knowing your starting point, how do you know that the actions you're going to take are actually going to make things better?
Okay.
So that's what we wanted to address. I think some companies spend a fortune on, a blanket kind of coverall type EDI training, but how do they then measure how effective it's been in changing behaviours and creating the results that they actually wanted to get from it?
Mm-hmm.
So we designed the accreditation to inform and guide that ongoing work, not just be some sort of trophy in a cabinet gathering dust until it's time to renew it again. So when you see the results that you're getting through the accreditation improving year on year, it actually proves for you that your actions are delivering the desired outcomes and impact that you wanted.
Okay, that's good. You've said a few things that I've noted down. You've talked about, to inform and guide ongoing work. So that's for those that have already kind of started on their, EDI journey. Understanding root causes of issues and knowing where your starting point is. And I think every organization can benefit from that. But when you look at this, when some people hear about, going through an accreditation process, there are a few things that would come to mind. One for me is money.
Yep.
As all business owners, as we have to think about, well, how much is this going to cost me in pounds and pennies? But also, there is the financial consideration for an organization, and that may potentially inform whether they think, oh, this is for the large corporates, for example. This is not for us. We're only a small organization of 20 people. So who is the accreditation for? Is it for medium-sized organizations, large organizations? Who exactly would benefit from this process?
That's an amazing question, Tutu. We designed it intentionally for everyone, to be affordable and accessible for everyone. Obviously, if we're talking about equality, we wanted to make sure that every organisation had an equal opportunity to go through this journey. Quite often, the large corporates have big, sophisticated HR departments and policies in place, so they're very well supported around their DEI initiatives. Whereas smaller organisations sometimes lack that budget, but are really in need of the help. So we intentionally created it so that it's very affordable for businesses of every size. We want as many people as possible to be on this journey.
Okay, so that's really good to know. So it's for all types of organizations. It's for small organizations. It's for the the larger organizations as well. So that's really good to know. So another thing that that is quite common within the world of work, and especially in certain industries, is that everybody wants to get an award.
Yeah.
And I mean, give myself as an example. I've had companies sending me emails about, oh, if you pay a certain amount of money, we can put you in top 100 of this, top 50 of that. I know I'm not top 50 of some of these industries. I know that. But then it just make me think, actually, if I've got enough money, I could well be one of these top 100, top 50, whatever. But it then make me think, people that are highly rated and that have this publicity and have this high rating, it makes me question some of the awards, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. It does raise a question in my mind as to how they came about it. How can you convince people that this is not just another award to be won?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Great question. And I think it was very important to us when we created this accreditation that it was impartial, that it was independent, that it was meaningful. So we have a number of charity partners on board that ensure that the accreditation meets the needs of the communities they serve. So that was the first and foremost consideration in terms of credibility. We also have an independent accreditation panel, which is a panel of volunteers who really care about diversity and inclusion, who each come at it from a different perspective, be that corporate experience. We've got lawyers, we've got psychologists, we've got EDI experts, we've got students, retired veterans, so lots and lots of different experience and skills and qualifications, and they review every single accreditation application that we score. There's a very clear framework that means it's evidence-based. You can't fudge the results, and that accreditation panel really certify the validity of what we're doing as well.
Right. Okay. So as an organization aiming to get accredited, so to say, where do I start from if I'm looking to start my accreditation? What are some of the key steps that organizations should be aiming for EDI accreditation? Is there any pre-work that they need to do before they approach you, or how does it work? What steps should they be aiming for?
We've had all sorts of different organizations approach us and want to be accredited, and what I actually love is the variety. So there are some organizations come and say, we've won this award, we've got that certification in place, we are really confident that we are the finished article, if you like. And the news for them is often quite disappointing, because there are very few organizations that we think are the finished article. It's always an ongoing journey, right, that evolves. We've also had organizations come to us and say, we don't know what we're doing and we really want to get better. We know there's things we can improve, but we don't know where to start. Can we go through the process to help inform and guide that journey? And those companies are as welcome as the ones that already think they're doing great things. We look at all sorts of different criteria in the framework. So if you are not paying your people equally, if you are not paying your people minimum wage, you can't pass. If we're talking about
what about living wage?
Yes, sorry, outdated terminology for me there, but it's those considerations in terms of basic fundamental human rights as the level playing field to start with. There are 3 different levels within the accreditation that are recognised. So whether you're just starting out on the journey, or whether you are, been at this for some time and are beacons of best practice, there will be a recognition of where you are and how you're doing. I think probably the best preparation for an organisation is to be honest about where you are on your journey. Some of the things we consider through the application process, organisations haven't ever thought about. And that's okay.
What? Can you give us some examples?
Excuse me.
Without going into too much detail, because obviously people are going to need to go through the accreditation process to get the full information.
Absolutely. We look at the way decisions are made within an organisation. Is there actually a process that guides and helps them get input from expert organisations and special interest groups, for example? And they go, oh no, we just make a decision based on what the board sees fit. Or it might be, equal pay is a really interesting one. So in the UK, you'll know companies with less than 250 employees don't have a statutory obligation to report their pay gap.
Yes.
So lots of companies have never even considered it or looked at it or know how to go about measuring it. So through the application process, we do a lot of this work for them. And they suddenly go, oh gosh, how do we fix this? We ask different things about the type of training or the CSR initiatives. You know, corporate social responsibility is very closely linked with diversity and inclusion. So what is the organization's attitude to social responsibility? And quite often, an organization may not have connected the dots between the two. So those are the type of challenges some organizations have faced, and they go, oh, we don't know, let's go away and quickly do something and pretend we're doing this. It's not about ticking a box, filling a form. It's about provoking those thoughts that maybe change and help an organization evolve to do those things in the future.
Well, thank you. That's very useful. So welcome to everybody that's just joined us. So if there's anybody that didn't catch the beginning, I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for taking the time. If you have any questions for Liz or myself, please, can you put them in the chat? And we're keeping an eye on them to ensure that we can read them and also answer them for you as well. So back to the point that you were making, Liz. One thing that I like about this process is that you're not only asking questions about, what's your attitude towards this, what is, you're not asking just the what questions, but you're also asking for evidence you're asking companies to show you, and some of them will be, data from previous months or even previous years. So that would really show the trends and the patterns, which I think is really useful. I like data. So that's really useful to see the numbers, really. So as opposed to somebody writing something very lovely about what they're doing and how they position themselves within how they position their business, how they position them within the market, but also looking at the actual evidence that supports any of this. And if there is no evidence, really, they're not really going to meet up with what it is that you're offering. What sort of value do you think that an accreditation can bring to a business? Just kind of in general.
I think it's really valuable from a reputational perspective, but also from a financial and monetary one. And I think a lot of people are uncomfortable, or they shy away from the fact that diversity and inclusion is good for business. It has a monetary value.
Yes.
So actually, it's well known, it's proven that 69% of millennials, 83% of Gen Zs, who make up about 40% of today's workforce, want their organization to be diverse and inclusive. And they will actively seek out employment opportunities with companies that are. So it helps you attract talent in the same way it helps you attract clients. People actually want to see evidence and proof. As you said, it's very well to make a nice statement telling the world about your intent, but actually to be able to demonstrate and prove this is actually what we do is really valuable in that whole talent attraction piece. Any business will know that one of the highest overheads is your people.
Yes.
Recruitment is a huge percentage of the budget for most organizations. And so if you're able to keep your people for longer and attract the best possible talent, you reduce your recruitment budgets, you reduce your attrition rates, all of which are really costly for the business. So it actually improves the bottom line as well as being good for your reputation, which I think is a crucial piece that people often don't like to talk about with diversity and inclusion initiatives.
I think you summarized that really nicely. You've done that really well. Thank you. There's also still under the points that you made around reputation and finances. There's also for clients, for organizations who are looking to attract more clients.
Yeah.
It's always good to be able to show them, this is the process that we've gone through to show clients, and this is the accreditation that we have as a result. And for also to be able to say to them on an ongoing basis, we are being reassessed with EDI accreditation. How frequently is the reassessment process?
So it's an annual process, which gives people
annual.
It's annual, so it gives.
That's quite tough.
Well, we've designed the process so that actually we do a lot of the legwork.
Right.
So it's not onerous. It's not, months and months of people power to jump through all these various hoops for us. You provide information, you answer questionnaires, and then you leave us to do a lot of the work. So it's not massively onerous, but what that year does is it gives people the opportunity to really act and impact on those changes and see their progress, because I think that's that's one of the most rewarding parts of this. We all like to see how we're doing. So I think having that frequency allows people to actually maintain that progress and still be committed and engaged with the process.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you. We have a question here. Let me see. I've just popped that on the screen for us to say. This is from Rab Bassi. Hi, Rab. What sort of DEI initiatives do organizations have to enable that feeling of belonging, like CPD for development? Sorry, there is a car just outside my window. I apologize to everyone if you can hear this. I don't even know what that is. Oh, it seems to have resolved itself. So yeah, if we can look at Rab's question, he's asking what sort of DEI initiatives do organizations have to enable that feeling of belonging, like CPD for development? I think I'll let you answer in a minute, Nate. So I think that would depend on the organization, in particular, what sort of organization they are and what it is that they're already doing. Definitely being interested in, I'm just trying to make sure I understand this question very well. Being interested in continuous professional development for their staff is definitely a big one. It shows that you are interested in your employees, and also you're interested in their growth and their development. So that's fine. Do you have any views on this one, Liz?
Yeah,
did we understand your question very well? If you think that we didn't interpret it well, please do comment again and we'll look at it.
I think, again, this is something that we try and be as broad as we possibly can. Mm-hmm. So it might be elements of religious inclusion. Mm-hmm. So are different holidays marked, acknowledged, recognized? Does the organization actively participate in Pride events? Or there's all sorts of different ways of embracing different members of your workforce. Mm-hmm. And actually giving them that sense of belonging is to acknowledge and recognize the elements that are important to them. And I think we're all really different. So actually, if you look at the political events in the UK of a month or so ago, when there were the race riots, if you have Muslim or ethnic staff members being able to actually respond instantaneously when events like that are unfolding, and acknowledge that people need different support through those type of challenges, actually those initiatives are much more important than doing something big and showy and so there's a lot of different ways an organization can get it right and do things really well to give their employees that sense of belonging. We look at all sorts of different things. So whether they have a menopause policy, there is the Halo Code, which is a great code that corporations can adopt, really celebrating and acknowledging the difference for ethnic hairstyles and the historic drive for professionalism to be around Eurocentric standards, and actually undertaking initiatives like that as a constant and regular thing. An organization can do so much for that feeling of belonging.
That's really good. Thank you. I also think that having that data to hand is usually a good starting point. Understanding who you actually have within your team, gathering the data of your employee, understanding who they are, where do they belong, would really help in terms of initiating any sort of diversity and inclusion initiative in terms of starting something. Because if you don't know, so if you don't know where how I identify, for example, in terms of religion, how can you possibly take it into consideration if I was a Muslim, as an example?
Absolutely.
How would you know without, you cannot assume that because I don't know how wear a headscarf, for example, I'm not one, or that I am one. I think having that data to hand would really help organizations in terms of starting initiatives, not just going for what's trendy, because sometimes there's a bit of a danger there, isn't it? Oh, everybody's writing a menopause policy now. Let's all go and write. Let's make sure we've got one as well. But we need to know who's actually in the room, who's employed here, and be able to then use that information to build our policies and initiatives and all of that.
Absolutely. The challenge there, though, Tutu, and you touched on something really interesting. It's about knowing who you employ. Mm-hmm. And you can do some of that through metrics and hiring data when you are bringing a person into the organization. You can ask them to share some really personal data with you. To allow the person to do that, they have to feel psychologically safe.
Absolutely.
And these things, again, are, I think, really closely linked, because why am I going to tell you something that I consider deeply personal about my circumstances, particularly if I've had a negative experience of revealing that before, until I know I can trust you, until I know that what you're going to do with that information is a positive for me, not something that is going to be used to discriminate against me or to other me in some way, shape or form. So that's a really interesting balance as well. And I think
quite
the accreditation can help with that process as well, because what it actually says to your employees is, we're really genuine about this.
Yeah,
we're really authentic in what we're trying to do here, and we find the organisations we're working with, a lot of their people originally are quite, why do I need to tell you? Mm-hmm. And by the end of the process, they're like, oh my God, and did you know this as well? And can I tell you about that about me? And are sharing way more, because they feel that genuine sense of belonging and that safety to be able to share and be supported in whichever way they need.
I agree with you. Gathering data, it's never easy, especially because, I mean, people would only tell you what they want to tell you, and there is nothing that there is no obligation on their side. It's not mandatory for them to share any details that's personal, which is where building trust is really important for organizations, because instead of asking all the time, tell me this and tell me that, you're also upfront sharing. This is what we're doing. This is how you build trust. This is what we're doing with regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to become a more inclusive organization. This is our journey. This is where we are now. I find that having that kind of attitude really helps, because you're sharing that information, and it's not just a one-way process. Employees mainly sharing information with you, and you're not sharing with them. So yeah, that's really good. Thank you. We have another question here. Okay, I think we've answered Rab's first question. He says, spot on, looking for how an organization can show the employees of their DEI engagement. That's really good. Thank you, Rab. We have another question here that's asking, I've just popped it on the screen. Is the process anonymous? That's a good one, actually.
Yeah.
Is the process anonymous?
So yes, there are elements of the process that are anonymous. All the bits around the cultural assessment and the employee engagement piece is anonymous. So I think it's really important to give employees that comfort that actually, while they're starting out on their journey and while they're going through this process for the first time, that they can be honest, that they are protected, they are safe, they can actually voice how they really genuinely feel about their workplace, about the experiences that they've had, without repercussions, and that the organization is genuinely committed to acting and responding to that feedback in a positive way. Right. So yes, we absolutely protect anonymity for all those reasons.
Very good. So I think you've answered that question. If anybody has any other questions, please continue to put them in the chat, and then we'll bring them up as we've just done now. So thank you very much for that question, Rab. That's very good to see. So what are some of the common challenges organizations face in aligning their best practices for EDI? And what are some of the challenges that you think that some of the organizations that come to you, what are the common EDI challenges that they have?
I think the biggest challenge that face organizations is actually change. Best EDI practice usually requires an organization to change some of the things that they're used to doing.
Change is never easy.
We're creatures of habit, right? We can all be resistant to change. In my local supermarket, they've just changed the layout, and I hate it. I'm sure there's a perfectly good reason for it, but the soap powder isn't where the soap powder should be. You know, we're creatures of habit and comfortable with the familiar. However, many of the systems, policies, practices, all the things that were put in place years ago, whether that's by HR or the structures within an organization, are often the things that create the unintentional barriers and obstacles for people. So if you're trying to undertake any EDI initiative, but you're resistant to change, that's going to be the biggest challenge. I think it's really important that when you're approaching the accreditation or any other kind of improvement initiatives, that you're doing that with a growth mindset. That phrase about, oh, we don't do things like that around here, or this is how we've always done it, are really unhelpful. So you kind of need to throw out the old and go, right, what would be the ideal? What are we trying to create here for the future? And keep hold of that sort of focus on the new, the improved, and the exciting things that an organisation can really achieve when it has that different mindset.
Okay, thank you very much for that. How long does the process take? So if an organization approaches you on Monday and they want to start their accreditation process, how long does it take on average from start to finish?
Typically, it can be sort of 6 to 8 weeks is fairly standard. Depends a little bit on the size and the complexity of the organisation. So if you've got lots of different locations or different types of staff. So we were working with an organisation that had sort of medical clinical staff as well as retail staff and maintenance and office administration. So there's a lot of different moving parts in a situation like that. We work to the speed of the organisation as well. So for the elements that the client has to participate in, go at your own pace. We've had one client actually this month who, so clients access the application through a secure online portal.
Right.
And typically the first bit that HR do can take sort of 2 to 3 weeks to gather all the evidence, upload some information, answer some questions. And yet I had one organisation do it in 48 hours. So it really depends on your appetite and the speed you want to go at. But typically 6 to 8 weeks is about standard.
Okay. And what happens if I don't pass, if I don't pass the accreditation process, then what? Do you just judge me?
Yes, I just
point your fingers at me, or you've been bad.
No, absolutely not. So clients get a really comprehensive report which shows them all the information that we have gathered around representation, about who their employees are, about how they are rewarded, about how they experience the workplace, which is some of the most insightful information that I think we gather through the process. And that then is prioritized into different levels of importance. So if we were to see something significant that was impacting the physical or psychological safety of employees in the workplace, that would be highlighted and prioritized, as this is quite an urgent matter for you to address. There might be some other nice to have elements that we go, do you know what? When you've addressed all the big stuff, these are the little tweaks and enhancements that you can make to really create that culture that is inclusive and phenomenal for everybody. And so the client has that as a takeaway to really guide and inform that journey.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you. If there's anybody that's just joining us, my name is Tutu Popoola, and I'm in conversation with Liz Metz, the co-founder of EDI Accreditation Limited. So I'm going to go on to, my final question to you. What one thing would you like us to, hold on to from today's conversation? Is there something in particular that you would like, that you would like to highlight? You want us to remember?
Yeah, I think just one thing is always difficult.
Okay, I'll give you two. I'll give you two.
I think if I'm going to try for one, it probably is about going back to the very start, and it's about measuring.
Right.
Really measuring the status quo, understand what your starting point is, and let that determine your journey. You can't base your journey on what a different organization is doing or feels is right for them. And I think that can often be, we see, oh, they've done this training, maybe we should do that training for our staff as well. Well, do your staff need that training? Is that actually creating a challenge in your environment? Because if it's not, save your money. Spend it where it's going to have the most impact.
Elsewhere, yeah.
So I think that measurement piece is probably the crucial one.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Thank you so much for your time, Liz. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Do you have any questions for me? I just feel like I've been asking you too many questions. Is there any questions you have for me before?
Well, I think it'd be really interesting, Tutu, because obviously as an HR professional, you see clients from the different side of the coin where they are actually looking for training or they're looking for solutions. So I'd be really interested to know what the type of challenges are that you sort of see and face from companies that are already on the journey.
It varies really across industries and then depending on their size as well. Sometimes the big challenge is when companies, they're not really sure what to do. That in itself is a problem because they want to do something, they're not sure what to do, they're not sure what they want to prioritize, and this is quite common. So having some sort of process where you can audit and have some sort of report highlighting, these are where your strengths are at the moment and these are your weaknesses, and this is what you should be looking at in terms of your priorities is something that they would find to be really useful. And then there is also the other end of the spectrum of organizations that know there are issues, but they're just not prepared to address any of it. And they just want to, just carry on and power through, as I call it, which basically is hiding what, not acknowledging the problem and just going ahead with the day-to-day. And that doesn't really solve anything because the problems are still going to be further down the line and they would create other problems in the future. So being in HR, there is a constant juggling act, I would say, but it's also we're there as advisors to be able to point organizations in the right direction to say, like, as you said, sometimes we see them through a different lens for us to be able to highlight them where we believe that, change should happen and also celebrate what's working really well. So it's not all doom and gloom in the world of HR. Sometimes some things are really good and sometimes, you need to talk about those as well. And you would find that there are organizations that are doing really good work. They are excelling at a number of different things, but they don't talk about it. So nobody knows. So part of our role is also to ensure that we do highlight the challenges, but also we like to spotlight, where things have gone well and to celebrate that as well.
Yeah. Do you find that organizations are reluctant to share that with their own employees? They don't share that internally. Do you help them manage those kind of communications and things too?
So what do you mean? Are you talking about when things have gone well or when they have not going so well?
Both. I think it's really important that there's that honesty.
So when things have gone well, they're quite happy to share. Most organizations are happy to share, when things have gone well, when they've won an award, where we've run some what's the word now, data, some reports, and we've seen some very good trends. Most organizations will be quite happy to share that. But where it's been negative, occasionally there might be a bit of a reluctance to want to do so, for a number of different reasons. One of it being there's already a lot of there's a lot of doom and gloom going on, or we've already done a few things not quite right. We shouldn't be highlighting this one as well as everything that's already out in the open. So they may want to quietly in the background resolve that and not want to make that open. And sometimes some organizations are bold and say, actually, we haven't done really well. on this uncertainty. They might not share the full, 100% information, because some of it may also be confidential.
Yeah.
But I think it depends mainly on the culture of an organization. That's what will determine whether or not they want to share more or they want to share less.
Yeah. And culture is such a difficult thing to actually describe, I think, and summarize. Lots of organizations talk about wanting a great culture, but defining what actually good looks like it can be quite hard.
Yes, I mean, we can talk about culture. I can talk about culture all day with an organization. Culture is not, the slogan on the wall, the frames in the office and all of that. That's not actually the culture of an organization. Is who we actually are, who that organization is. How do we deal with matters? How do we do what we do? What do people think? People that work with us, what do they think about what we do, and how do they feel about working with us? When the answer to those questions is more revealing than any nice slogan, logo, photo on the wall in an organization. So it's not just about what's on the website as well. Oh, who are we? We are XYZ. All of that's nice, but it's not really the culture,
No.
of organization.
There's a phrase that I love that I'm going to completely misquote, but you'll get the gist of it.
Tell
and
me.
it is about the culture in an organization is determined by the worst behavior leadership tolerate.
I would agree with that, actually. The worst behavior. I'm gonna write that down.
As I say, I've misquoted it. I think it's
That's
much
all
more
right.
succinctly put somewhere, but the gist is there. You get the meaning. And actually, I think it's those behaviors. It's it can be as simple as the language that is used, and the example that is set by the management teams, by those leaders that are influencing how people behave within that organization. So I think that's quite telling.
Yes, it is, and that's a very good quote, actually. Thank you very much for that. I think we're going to wrap up. Perfect. Now. I don't see any more questions coming through, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us today. I think it's been very useful, very insightful for me as well. For any further information, if anybody requires further information on the accreditation process, where can they find you?
They can find us at ediaccreditation.com. We're on LinkedIn, and the website is a really easy place to contact us. So thanks so much for the chat, Tutu. It's been lovely talking to you, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the sessions in your series for National Inclusion Week. So I've got all those earmarked, and I hope other people.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. It's been wonderful speaking to you. I've just popped in the chat the Amazing. Full website, ediaccreditation.com, so people can go and see, they can go there for further information. So for the rest of this week and next week, we have a few more conversations like this, led by experts like Liz and other experts who are going to come on and talk about different topics around workplace inclusion. So please do follow us online, follow us on LinkedIn. Just put Slick HR in the chat, or find me on LinkedIn, same name, Tutu Popoola, and you will see all the information of all the other sessions that we have as well. So I look forward to seeing you there, and I hope that you will join us again. So thanks everybody for your time, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.